Hi everybody, I'm GREYMOND. Today we're going to be answering questions about OCD recovery, so let's get started. So the first question I have here is, thank you so much for your video. I haven't been to a therapist regarding OCD yet, but these symptoms are exactly what I'm going through. Should I just explain exactly what you said on the video to the therapist? Thank you again for awesome, informative video. Well, it doesn't, I don't know if it makes much, this is in my opinion, but I don't know if it makes much sense for you to explain to the therapist about OCD. Really the therapist should be explaining to you about OCD. That's the reason why you're seeing them, right? So yeah, if you can, if you want to, but in terms of actual recovery from harm OCD, you need to do the exposure and response prevention. In terms of harm OCD, the exposure is the thought itself. The response prevention is preventing the response of fear to the thought. So the thought of what if I'm gonna harm somebody, or what if I have harmed somebody, such as like false memory OCD comes in, you're refusing all reaction, you're choosing not to pay attention to it, you're not giving it any energy. And the more you do this, the less the thoughts are going to come in, and the less fear is going to come with them. Now keep in mind that, just like I say in all my other videos, that in the beginning the thoughts come in more because, and I probably should actually go over this in all the videos, because there's a lot of people who are watching my channel for the first time, this video for the first time, and you need to really understand how OCD works. And actually this is a good repetition for people who have already heard me talk about it, because it brings that thought process again to your mind, right? That that part of the brain is reactionary. It's not logical. It's not cognitive, in the sense of it cannot tell the difference between OCD thought and non-OCD thought. So it's taking any thought that you react to as a signal, okay? So taking any thought as a signal. So, but if you react to a thought, that signal becomes important. Well, why is it important? Is it important in a good way, or in the way that it brings you fear? Obviously, because you're reacting to this thought. It happens to be harm OCD for this person, could be any type of OCD, right? The person is reacting to it with fear, to the thought with fear. More thoughts come in because that part of the brain is responsible for protecting you. So whatever it is that you're reacting to, again, that part of the brain has no idea what you're reacting to, but whatever it is that you're reacting to, it's going to bring you more of. So if it's fear towards harm, okay, more harm thoughts. If it's fear towards, I don't know, a red ball, more red balls are coming your way. Do you know what I mean? The actual thought, don't allow it to scare you. It means nothing by itself. It's only there because at some point you gave it a reaction. And, they've done a lot of studies on this in terms of the difference between thoughts that people who have OCD get or people who don't have OCD get. And there is no difference. People who don't have OCD get weird thoughts from time to time, but the difference is that they don't get fixated on the thought, and because they don't pay that much attention to it when they get it, the thought doesn't repeat. For a person with OCD, they start to get into this mode of, well, why am I having this thought? Well, I'm a bad person for having this thought, right? In terms of like harm OCD, for example. And the more they get into the mode, the worse they feel. So it just becomes like a snowball effect that, they're trying to get rid of anxiety, but they're doing it from a position of fear. And the more you do something from a position of fear, the more your mind, that part of the mind, which still doesn't understand what the thought is about, but understands that you have a lot of fear attached to it, is bringing you that which you're scared of, that signal. Again, doesn't know what it is, just a signal, but that specific type of signal or a very similar signal over and over again, because you keep reacting over and over again. So the only way to stop it is for you to stop the reaction. So until you stop the reaction, the thoughts are going to keep coming in. So in no way are you supposed to give it any kind of energy, because you're powering the thought up. So not even, even in terms of when you get kind of closer to the recovery, even things that are maybe not directly thinking about the thought, but still thinking about, well, it's so bad that I'm stuck with this OCD, or, how is my process of recovery going, or, because sometimes like later on, closer to the end of recovery, sometimes people get the process of recovery as their main theme. Am I recovering correctly? That happens a lot as well. So, so any kind of negative signal, it registers in the brain, and the brain makes a big deal of it. So you have to keep in mind how you are reacting to things, right? So being very vigilant with that. Am I reacting from a position of power or from a position of fear? If this, whatever your theme is, doesn't matter what it is. Believe me, it really doesn't matter what it is. So whatever your theme is, if you are reacting from a position of fear, it doesn't matter what kind of reassurance you're doing. Self-reassurance, asking others, checking online, getting tests done, whatever. Cleaning, checking, praying, it doesn't matter. You're doing it from a position of fear, that's the wrong position to be in. That's going to bring on more thoughts. If you're doing things from a position of power, such as, I want to do this, I don't care what OCD says, or I want to do things this way, OCD disagrees with me, wants me to, I don't know, check more, clean more, whatever, analyze more, ruminate more. I'm not going to do that. Do you see how there's a difference in even how I'm saying it? Like, you're coming from a position of power. When you're coming from a position of power, you're showing your mind that you are not afraid, that this thought is not important. Your mind stops looking at this thought as something that's valuable to you and stops sending you the thoughts, and you become out of this, right? You come out of OCD. That is the process. You just have to keep pushing. And in the beginning, you actually feel a little bit worse, because what your mind does is your mind says, okay, so this thought was important to you all this time. Now suddenly you're not reacting to it. Well, that's not good, because it's dangerous. I've learned for a long time now that it's dangerous. So I'm going to bring you more thoughts on this topic or any type of similar topic to get you back into reaction, because you got to protect yourself. You know what I mean? So you see what the mind is doing here. And you just have to understand, with my clients, my big goal is for them to become an expert in OCD as much as I am an expert in OCD. So they can explain why they're feeling good, why they're feeling bad, what is happening on any specific day. And that takes the fear out of the situation. Yes, the thoughts feel very real. Yes, they're coming in, against your will and all of this, But if you can explain why this whole thing is happening to you, it takes the general fear out of it, and you start to look at OCD as a mechanism. Do you know what I mean? You don't look at it as something frightening, something real, but it's just a mechanism. It's like when you have a cold, you have runny nose. When you have OCD, thoughts feel real. This is just how it works. So it's just not choosing not to react with fear. It's very, it's like, if you're ever unsure if you're doing the recovery work correctly, if you answer that one question, are you coming right now from a position of fear or from a position of power? If you're coming from a position of fear, you're doing the wrong thing. You need to get back to the position of power. It's as simple as that. So moving on to the next question. And just another thing is, if it's like, don't get sidetracked by the type of thoughts you're getting. So they're harm OCD thoughts. So they're, I don't know, some other type of OCD. It doesn't matter. Your mind is just throwing something that is scary to you that you will react to. That's all it's doing. So what kind of thoughts you get, it doesn't really matter, Like I said before, like I have 8 years of experience with it. Not to give you guys reassurance, but, no one's in jail, no one's done anything bad, nothing bad has happened, So, in 8 years of talking to clients. So you're not going to be the first one, So it's just don't give it energy. That's the most important thing. So next question, I'm not going to read out the entire question, but just so the person knows what I'm talking about. So it starts out that the person was walking by and they got a thought which basically created fear. So with this, again, you're giving this thought a lot of energy by trying to analyze. Who cares? So it was linked to a fear, so it was linked to an action. It doesn't really matter. This is not a big deal. You have to refuse and choose to move on. It's just you feeding it that's creating the problem. There's no actual problem. And so from now on, from the time you're watching this video, no more analyzing. You're pushing through. So whatever has to do with this thought, with the situation, you're not paying attention to it, you will see that the thoughts will start to feel less severe and to start to go away. You just need to give it some time for it to not feel so scary. Right now, you're really operating from the feelings side because you're so scared and you're trying to figure it out. But as you pull away, refuse to figure it out, the feelings will go down and you'll start to look at it logically like everybody else. So. Next question is, during my exposure and acceptance style therapy, no matter how long I'm exposed, my mind never stops. I'm assuming the person says stops obsessing. I try to accept, but it's always there. Any tips? Okay, so again, just like I said in my other video, the thought is there. That's how it's going to be. Excuse me. So the thought is there, but you're not giving it a reaction, right? So the thoughts are over here, you're over here. Doesn't matter how much attention they're trying to get from you, you're not giving them attention. You're allowing them to stay over here, and you're living here. So you're paying attention here, you're going about your daily life, and yes, the thoughts are there, but you're just not giving it attention. If you just let them be, they're gonna start to go away. Guys, never wish for the thoughts to go away. Obviously, on the subconscious level, obviously I understand you want to recover, you want the thoughts to go away. But if you start to actively wish for them to go away, that starts to come from a position of fear. And the more it comes from a position of fear, the more actual thoughts you're going to get because your mind sees that you're in panic. So, and I think that this is to an extent what's happening here is that even though you're doing the exposure and acceptance style therapy, you're accepting the thoughts, right? But you're still I'm not sure what you mean by exposure and acceptance versus exposure and response prevention therapy. You need to be preventing the response of fear. You can accept the thoughts as being there, physically they're there, they're coming in, they're bugging you. Yes, that all exists, but you still have to refuse the response. So no energy towards these thoughts in any possible way. What I was saying earlier, also not analyzing your situation in terms of recovery, not feeling bad for yourself, not, as much as possible, not sending any negative signal. You will kind of feel like you're faking it. As you're doing that, you will feel like I'm being fake, I'm not living a real life, like I'm going out to places, but I'm not feeling good. I'm doing this and that, but I'm not feeling good. That's fine. That all will come into place by itself. You don't have to do anything special for it, but you do have to show your mind that everything is fine. But because your mind is so focused on everything not being fine, that's why it's going to feel fake. Next question is, hi Ali, how do you deal with depression and obsessing over feeling depressed while trying to get over your main thought? So this is exactly what I was talking about. So, this is not clinical depression, right? You're depressed, I'm assuming, right? Based on what you're saying, right? So it's not, a person is not clinically depressed. They're depressed because they're feeling bad because they have OCD. It's a depressing situation, generally speaking, right? It's depressing. It's not a happy situation, right? So it's fine. That will resolve itself, but don't focus on how you feel. Your feelings right now are completely clouded by OCD. So if you feel depressed, if you feel unhappy right now, that's fine. Who cares? Don't react. That's the most important thing. Don't react with fear to any of these thoughts. Because the whole, a lot of the times this whole thing about depression is a theme of OCD. So worrying, am I depressed, or I feel depressed, or whatever, it becomes its own theme, even though technically it's about something else, right? And so next comment was, maybe praying with rosary will help, somebody said. And, whatever you need to do in terms of, I talk to people all around the world with various, religions, and whatever you need to do to I'm assuming the person is talking about like relaxation and things like that, like meditation, and whatever you need to do for that, is fine, you know. So if you're praying with rosary, if you're meditating, if you're even things like, you know, doing yoga, right, and with the to relaxing music, right, all of these things will help. Because, you know, an important part here is that you need to allow your mind enough space for it to relax. Your mind is basically doing double work, you know, double shifts, because it's on one side, it still needs to keep you functioning in real life, and then at the same time it needs to provide answers for OCD all the time if you're still doing reassurance, right? If you're not doing reassurance, it still needs to somehow find the power to resist OCD thoughts, to not give them attention, which you're not giving them attention, but that still takes mental energy. So you need to help out your brain. So if you need to sleep longer, sleep longer. If somebody tells you, oh, you're sleeping too much, let that be their problem and not your problem. You need to rest because you need to allow your mind to recuperate, you know. So tell them to watch this video so they can understand why you're sleeping more. Hi Ali, your videos do really good to me. Which email can I send you a question? You can write a question under this video, under any of my videos. I just get them in a rows or in kind of by who wrote first or who wrote last. Like that's how it puts it in the back end of YouTube for me. So I'll see every single question or every single comment, and then I just I reply to all of them. Or to most of them anyways. Hi Ali, I'm having OCD for a while now, but I can't find many specialists that can help me in OCD. Is it really difficult to treat? You know, not to kind of promote myself, but I am available if you would like to do the program. Of course, you can do so. I talk to people all around the world. This is another question I get asked often through email: is do you talk to people on like Skype, FaceTime, whatever? Yes, that's how I see all my clients. So it's all through pretty much mostly through Skype, but you know, whatever other programs you use to connect, that's fine as well. So unfortunately, I can tell you guys, all around the world, it's pretty much the same situation where there's not a lot of specialists, not a lot of doctors who know even the basics about OCD. You know, it's like, you know, I don't expect them to understand like harm OCD or anything that's, you know, beyond, but it's like sometimes they don't even understand like cleaning OCD, which is written in every book. It's a really bad situation, you know, and that's why I try to see as many clients as I possibly can, because it's, you know, I've been there, so I know, you know, how much impact OCD causes. You know, it's not just the person suffering, it's their entire family, in their entire circle suffering as well, you know, and it's imperative to fix it, you know. And that's why I'm always here doing videos, whatever I can do to help, I will do, because you know, I guess to put it bluntly and simply, it shouldn't be like that. This is not right. For a person to suffer so much and to have absolutely no help, and I've experienced that, you know, we're in Canada here, right? And it's you get no help, you know, again, because there's not a lot of qualified doctors, you know, and the person goes in blindly believing, well, they're a doctor, they should know about it. Well, and then you find out that, guess what? Most of the time they don't. If you have a doctor that knows what they're talking about when it comes to OCD, consider yourself extremely lucky, you know, because it's just, you know, I would say, in terms of people who contact me, it's maybe 1 out of 10, you know, has a therapist that they also, because most of my clients also have like a doctor or some sort of a doctor as well, or they have seen a doctor, and it's, you know, it's bad. So, you know, don't believe people just because they have a white coat, you know, don't, you know, especially, you know, a lot of the times they'll be like, oh, you'll never recover, you should just take these pills for life, you know. Don't believe them. Make your own decisions, because I can tell you that doctor may have had just, you know, a very kind of not in-depth training on OCD. You know, they don't do in-depth training on OCD for psychologists. Maybe, in terms of their entire medical school, even if, say, they spent a month learning about OCD, how long have you spent learning about OCD? In terms of watching these videos, researching online, dealing with it yourself. So who is more of a specialist? Yes, doctors have their place and it's important to go see a doctor. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying use your own head as well. Do you know what I mean? Don't blindly believe. Sorry, just the video died. So anyways, what I was saying is that, just please, just if somebody's giving you advice, of course you should listen to the doctors and all of that, but, use your head is what I'm saying, to be frank. So next question is, hi Ali, I hope you can answer this question. I suffer from OCD since 2016 and no doctor could help me. They just gave me meds that didn't help. There is a man near my house who calls himself a bioenergy healer, and he says that he can cure depression, anxiety, and anything related to psychology, brain of a human. He posts videos of himself healing people who suffer from different illnesses. He is religious. Should I ask for help from him? To be honest, I haven't heard of anything like that ever really helping. You can go see him. It's not like it's gonna hurt, it's not gonna make a difference in the situation. As long as you're doing ERP, that's really the way to recovery. Doing exposures, preventing the response. If in addition you want to do this, it's up to you. But just, if somebody's asking for a lot of money up front, and they're telling you that they have special powers, then, I would be careful with that. But in terms of hurting your situation, I don't think it would hurt the situation specifically. I wouldn't go see him, to be honest. If I were in your position, I wouldn't. But, it's like I said, it's not going to hurt. I have a short question. If you are having trouble trying to determine what is OCD and what isn't, what are some telltale signs that what you're dealing with is OCD, or is it real life? Okay, so with that, if the thought comes in the form of what if the thought is your typical theme, if the thought is giving you a lot of anxiety, if you are doubting is this OCD or not, all that means that yes, it is OCD. Really, if you're watching this video wondering right now if this thought is OCD, yes, it is. You have to stop doing reassurance. And with reassurance, the type of reassurance that is most destructive out of all of it, right? Like different, or avoidance or whatever, right? The most destructive is the analyzing. So rethinking the situation, trying to solve the situation in your mind. Those are with Bureau, specifically, right? Those are the ones that are the hardest to get rid of and also the most important to get rid of, because if you're asking somebody, it's bad, or if you're checking online or whatever, say for example, that is bad. But if you're thinking 24 hours a day about the thought, trying to figure it out, trying to reduce anxiety, trying to protect yourself, that's really, really bad. So another question is this OCD, reasoning for anything and not getting the right answer, or every time the question of how is coming again and again? So forgetting the answer, searching again and again. So you see how you're doing searching, trying to figure out, doesn't stop, again and again and again. It's kind of long, but basically, yes, this is OCD. So not trying to get the right answer, not trying to figure things out, just saying, whatever, I don't care, I'm not paying attention, I'm choosing to move on. So another question is in terms of cheating OCD, feeling like, what if I cheated? Again, so not trying to figure it out. So if the thought says, you're right, like OCD says, what if you cheated? Do you remember every single moment of this event or this situation? Not allowing yourself to ruminate, to try to remember every single moment. And if you don't remember one specific second or a few minutes, then it's like, it's going to say to you, well, now you must have cheated in that specific time, right? Not buying into it. This cheating OCD is a very, very common OCD thought. So just not buying into it, not giving it energy. So not solving it. You will see that if you refuse, it feels scary to refuse to solve this type of situation, but the more you refuse to solve, the more feelings will start to eventually go down, and then as the feelings go down, you will start to see logically that no, that doesn't even make sense. But when you are full of fear, then it seems almost like it seems extremely real, right? But as you start to reduce that fear, to not buy into it, you will see that no, that doesn't even make sense. So you will get that reassurance in the end, but to get that reassurance, you first need for the thought to reduce its power. So next question is, I am experiencing religious OCD. I keep on guessing future events, and if I keep on guessing future events, and if it goes against my predictions, I feel anxious and I have to perform rituals. What should I do? Not perform rituals. Not if the thought comes in of kind of like auto thought of trying to guess something, almost like on autopilot, then refusing to give it energy. And on purpose not to try to predict something. Do you know what I mean? So you're not playing the OCD game anymore. Whatever comes in, let it come in, but you're not playing the game. Next question is, how come when I wake up in the morning or from a nap, I don't have any OCD thoughts, but then my mind starts to trigger me? Well, it's usually people in the morning, they get a lot of thoughts once they wake up, obviously once they wake up. And that's because there's not much going on. So as soon as your mind realizes, oh, wait a minute, I have to send you an OCD thought, it will. Especially when you're still kind of waking up, you're not that busy in terms of doing anything. Sometimes people don't get thoughts in the morning, so if you're saying that you get them later in the afternoon, that happens as well. But a lot of the times, the people get thoughts basically as soon as they wake up. Next question is, can you please explain why stress and poor sleep cause symptoms to rise and return? Okay, easy, because when you are putting your body in a stressful situation, this happens like real life, jobs, family, that all can potentially cause stress. Even things such as, getting married, having a baby, these things can, it's good stress, it's still stress, right? So your mind can't tell the difference between, like real stress and OCD stress. It's all viewing it as the same. So if you are dealing with real life stress, first of all, you're not as focused on recovery. So you're more likely to do reassurance, which will lead to more thoughts. And you're feeling more, to use more like hyped up generally because of real life stress, which makes everything feel more severe, more detrimental, so to speak. So in those ways, it creates more panic, basically. And poor sleep, again, because you need to give your mind as much as your brain as much room as possible to heal itself. If you're not sleeping, if you're drinking coffee, you're really, pushing your mind to the limit. It's like you're, instead of like pushing the brakes a little bit, you're pushing gas as far as it's gonna go, and your mind needs to get some help, in order to readjust. So I think that's all the questions I have for today. If you would like to sign up for the recovery program, you can do so on youhaveocd.com. There's also a lot of information on there. Please check it out. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. Ask questions below this video or any other video. I'll see you in the next show. Bye.